Greetings, I'm Barrett and welcome to Meet Me at the Table. Today we're going to be doing a quick unboxing of Distant Skies, and we're also going to take a look at Primeval Peril. These are both set in the world of Sleeping Gods, which is a smash hit. Not only was it a smash hit, it was a smashing success on my channel. I loved it. It's so much fun doing this game. If you don't remember or didn't have a chance to see it, myself and Colin both did a playthrough of Sleeping Gods on my channel, and he did his over on the One Stop Co-op Shop at the same time. And we did not talk to each other just to see how different it would be and which way each of us would go. And our playthroughs were 100% vastly different. It was super fun to see how that all transpired. We're going to be back with Distant Skies. And like I said, we're also going to take a look at Primeval Peril. Full disclosure, this is our crowdfunding copy. We were pledged for this and are excited to unbox this and get this to the table. And if you're excited to see Primeval Peril and Distant Skies, part of the Sleeping Gods world, then I need you to meet me at the table. Before we do the unboxing, this game is for 1 to 4 players. Takes anywhere from 1 to 15 hours because it is a campaign type game. And on top of that, it is for ages 14 plus. Let's take a look at what is in this. This is a super fun adventure game. I can never not get enough of this. This is super fun. I had a great time doing it. Colin and I played it together. We've also played it on camera. It's just a super fun game. We're going to dig through all the components and see what we found. We have found a box that has completed quests. A lot of the stuff you may see is going to be very similar to the original Sleeping Gods, but there are going to be some new things as well. This is going to be your journal, I believe, and it's going to show all the different places that you can go. Now, the new thing about this game is it does have this plane. This plane is part of the deal now. You're going to be flying around in this plane, and you're also going to be exploring at the same time. And you don't always have to be on the same map as the plane. The plane could be here, and you could go off somewhere else, and then you can bring that plane over there through the use of a certain card, from how I understand it. There are new things here. There are different hazards that are going to be on the map, and these are going to be different things that are going to trigger as you go through the game. These hazards are going to potentially cause you damage, but you might get upgrades or cards or abilities that allow you to ignore some of these different terrain hazards as you play through the game, so do be aware of those. And of course, you can walk off of these maps, but you have to only be able to walk off based on the numbers here. You cannot walk off this way. I bet this is like the lower part of the map. Now, of course, I haven't looked at the map, so I don't know. But this is the book that you're going to be out in front of you, deciding where you're going to send your characters. And of course, there are, I believe, 5 characters, 4 that are controlled by humans, then 1 that's controlled by the main player. And we'll get to that in just a second. Here is the Thunderstorm Isle. This is the expansion to the game that you're going to be able to add in, from what I understand. These are just different parts of the game. These cards are already part of the game. Most of this stuff is probably going to be found in some of the quest cards, and it is already found in the game. There is an introduction to this. You can start here without reading the rulebook. This is going to go through and tell you exactly how to set everything up, and it's even going to give you a little zone to be able to learn all the different rules for the game. And on top of that, it has an achievement list that has to do, I'm not sure if it's just with this or if this is the full achievement list for the game itself, but there are different totems. Your goal, it's not some of the part of the goal is to find totems, but usually there's an overarching thing you have to do in this game. I'm not sure what it is for this one, but from what I understand, probably the similar premise. You come in from a portal that is brought from, I believe, the 30s or 40s or something, and then you're in this world, and you have to try to do something or meet people or do anything, I guess. This game is basically go wherever you want to, and as you're going wherever you want to, you're going to be learning about the world of Distant Skies in the Sleeping Gods world, and you'll probably find out ways to be able to get out of here through the exploration of the game itself. Here, like I said, there's 6 different endings, it looks like. These are the different passengers. There's treasure maps, there's bosses to defeat, there's totems to get, there's different cards you're going to be able to unlock that you can use in different games. It is single-sided. This is, like I said, I believe going to be part of this setup game game, where it's going to be able to introduce you to different parts of the game. Then it has all the different things that are going to be found in the game box here and what you will do with them. And it teaches you how to set everything up. Like I said, you have 4 main characters. Then there's an extra character that's going to be used by whoever is player 1. Then you're going to be able to go through the game. You're going to be upgrading your characters by buying or collecting skills and being able to get different items and totems along the way, which are going to increase your abilities of your characters as well, being able to survive and attempt harder and more difficult challenges. There's a neat little story that's going to go along with this, and once that is done, it will teach you again about everything. There is combat in this game that you have to deal with, where you're going to be using different cards from the combat deck, and in each character then is going to use them, and then they're going to be able to fill up the different values of these characters or enemies, and as you do that, you'll slowly be killing them off, which I guess it feels kind of bad just saying you're slowly killing them off. Once, of course, you get through combat, there looks like more story, and it's going to teach you a little bit about the turn order and how to progress through the game. This is all found inside this introduction. I might do a video on this because my plan is to have Colin and I play through Sleeping Gods Distant Skies together live on my live portion of this channel, which we call Hit and Miss, and you can check out our live playthrough of this. I think we're going to start it in about 3 to 4 weeks, so please keep a lookout for that. But like I said, I might try to get a video out so people can understand exactly how the game plays before we do it live. Let's continue on. This, I think, is going to be our adventure book that is going to have all the different adventures in here, and it'll probably start with how to navigate the adventure book. Usually is how it goes. Nope, looks like it starts right off from the bat. There's no way on how to, doesn't tell you anything about the storybook. Storybook rules must all be in the rulebook. But as you're playing through the game, you're going to get different quests. You're going to go to different places, and it's going to tell you to go to different areas in this book. You're going to read it. Potentially there might be a challenge you have to face, or it could be enemies that are drawn that you're going to have to deal with. All the stuff for the story is located inside this book. It's a very thick book. From what I understand, you can also get it on Foreteller. I believe Foreteller did an audio narration of this entire game, which is super cool. Foreteller is amazing. I don't get any compensation for saying that. I just really love Foreteller. It's super good. Then they have a rule book. Like I said, a lot of the main themes and the main mechanics of the game are going to remain very similar to the original Sleeping Gods, but there are going to be some newer components added in, and I'm sure they will teach you that as you go through the game. The rule book for the first one I thought was very well done, but I'm sure this one is even better. I think this one's going to explain everything very, very well, considering it's kind of their second run at a very similar type of game. There are different ways you do challenges. There's skills and abilities that your characters are going to be able to get that can add to challenges so that you can pass them better. They have different adventure cards. Now, from what I understand, there's not as many geared towards combat because there's actually a full combat deck that you're going to be using, but some of these things might be able to help you in combat going through it. Or, of course, some are just going to be able to help you, like first aid is going to heal a character, for example. So there are cards that are going to help you in all those things. There are resources you're going to get. There's like common resources. There are rare resources, or quest resources, I should say. The common resources are going to be those that are common to find, and they're going to do just a limited amount of stuff, where the quest resources, of course, are going to be able to do a lot more going through this. Then they have a whole section on combat you have to deal with, enemy card, clarification, things of that. There's also a defeat and difficulty. There is a way to increase the difficulty. There's a way of lowering the difficulty, and there is defeat in this game as you go through it. You then are able to save your game going through this, and that's really about it. Already played Sleeping Gods. So if you have already played Sleeping Gods and you know the rules backwards and forwards, this, I believe, is just going to introduce you to some of the newer mechanics that are found in this game, Moxie. There are no ship actions, the camp instead of a port, so there's a lot of different, but probably similar to the way Sleeping Gods was built. And then, just like the other one, teaches you how to put everything back in the box, which is pretty good. Now, let's take a look at everything that's in here. The first thing we have, this is the marker that's going to go on our airplane track. I'll show you that in a second. Here's these things you're going to put your character portraits on. There's the standees of them. These are the different characters in the game, and we have our plane right here and a little ice cabin or something. I'm not sure what that is. We'll look that up as we go through the game. Because I'm a miniature genius, I figured it out. It is the stand for the plane that'll be out on the game board. Then, of course, like I said, we have our different survivors here, or different characters in the game, I should say. I do not know which is which yet, because I have not seen the character cards yet. But here are 3 of the characters. They are nice miniatures. They're going to be just fine. They're not super small, like Seventh Continent. Those were really small. This guy's got a baseball bat. Probably just bend that back if I needed to. You can bend it back by probably putting this in hot water and then just putting it where you want to and dip it into cold water, and it'll probably stay where it's supposed to. Those are the different characters for the game. This is a pocket watch. This is one of the tokens that is used in the game for keeping track of time, believe it or not. It's a clock. It keeps track of time. Wow, I'm freaking on fire today. Continuing on, these are going to be the health and I believe the power tokens for the enemies, or even for yourself as you're attacking and defeating enemies. You're going to use these to go onto those cards that you saw in the rule book. I'll probably show you a few here. These right here are going to be synergy crystals. If you work together as a team, I believe you're going to get synergy crystals that then you can take off to use certain abilities that your characters will have. We have, let's go through some of the cards here. Oh, these are going to be endurance tokens. And if, by the way, any of this is different from your box, I'm pretty sure that all of this had to do with the upgraded stretch goals and things like that in order to get some of these really cool tokens and things. There are some dice, lots of bags to keep things in as we go forward in the game. Like I said, there's a lot of cards here. Now these are going to, I'll look through some of these. I'll show you one of the enemies. We'll look at some of these cards, and then I believe in here are going to be the quest cards that I can't really show too well. First, we have 62 different ability cards. These have a dual use. One is you're going to be able to gain the skills and things from this particular card if you get that. Not only do you gain the tag of this towards any of your skills going forward, but you can also take advantage of the power down here. And you're going to slide that under one of your player boards that you'll see shortly. On top of that, it's also going to be used in skill checks. So when you go to do a skill check, you'll flip over one of these cards, and whatever the number is up here is going to be that number plus whatever extra modifiers you can do in order to try to complete one of the tasks in front of you. Now, of course, you don't have to complete every task. If you fail them, that's not the end of the world sometimes. I could be wrong about that. Sometimes it is the end of the world, but these are the ability cards. The next set of cards we have are enemy buff cards. This is new to the Distant Skies. These were not, I believe, in Sleeping Gods, from what I remember. These are going to be the things that buff your the enemy. And you could maybe have to draw one of these, and so this one's going to get 1 health per level and gain steadfast, which you'll have to deal with. This one is going to ready deadly. It's going to do extra damage to you. So these are going to be able to make some of the monsters a little bit different from what you would normally just face. Then the last cards we have 5 of these. Orphash's Curse. I have no idea what this is. Again, these are new to Distant Skies. This one just says Claire gains a frightened token and then redraw. Curse 4. So these are the different curses. I'm sure as you go through the game, curses may end up in your deck. They are the same back as the event ability cards, so I'm sure these are going to get shuffled in here and potentially can come out while you're doing checks, which would be bad, bad, bad. Next, we have a set of enemy cards that go from 1 to 73. If the book ever, you can never shuffle these cards, you keep them just like this. If the book ever tells you, or a card tells you to grab certain monsters out of it, you'll just take the monsters that are for that from the deck, and then you'll shuffle them up. If there's 2, for example, like there is now, you'd shuffle these up without looking at them and place them down. Now, I'm okay to show these. These are the exact same 2 they show in the introductory thing, so I don't feel bad about that. What you're seeing on these cards are all the different places that you're going to have to try to put wound tokens, and you're going to have to do the wounds equal to this monster. Once all the wounds are filled, the enemy is dead. Now, of course, if all you do is fill up the wounds, when it goes to retaliate against you and attack you, it's going to do damage equal to, I believe, the amount it has here. So this one, for example, is +1, +1, +1. And it says this is going to do 2 damage for every one of these. So you're going to put 3 of these out on here. And whenever you cover one of these, I believe you're going to take one away. And as you go through the combat, you're going to have to take damage from these enemies and distribute it amongst all your different heroes. On top of that, you also might want to cover some of these, because at the end of every round, these are going to take effect. We're going to deal 4 damage to 1. 4 damage to 1 is pretty brutal. Or you can gain different status effects from these particular enemies. So like I said, this is okay to show because these are the first 2 you're going to fight in the introduction game. These are number 12 and 13. So put those back into the deck in their respective spots so that when you go through the game and ask you to find those again, you have them available to you. And just because you defeat an enemy once doesn't mean it might not come back. And not only that, it might come back with some of those enemy buff cards now because of this game. And right down here, this is going to hold all of our quests. And it's really neat. It's a locked box. It does have a magnet down here, so it locks it up. This is exactly the same kind that we got from the original Sleeping Gods game. There are a ton of cards in here. Now, a lot of these are going to be quests, so I can't show them to you, but I could probably, these are the quests. A lot of these I'm not going to be able to show because I don't know which ones are, I can show, which ones I can't, based on how the game unfolds, because as you play through the game, once you get to the end, you're not going to have seen even half of these. There's no way. There's no way you're going to see even a quarter of these cards. And then so it gives you the ability to replay this game over and over again, being able to experience new parts of this game because of all the different quests that you can go on. You're never going to see the entire game in one playthrough. Now, before we continue on with the cards, I do want to dig to the bottom here. And in here, I believe we're going to find some of our player boards. So in case I need to reference anything, I'll be able to have that. On top of that, we do have our journey log. This is a way you're going to be able to keep your game saved. And on top of that, you can see what you've done when you come back to the next playthrough to decide where you might want to go in the future. We have camps down here. As you do different things in the game, it might tell you that you're going to have to use a campfire. This is kind of the timer from what I understand of the game. And as you get down here, they're going to read certain places down here. You can choose what difficulty you want to set it at, and then it has the names and locations here for the characters. Once you decide to save your game, you write it all down, and then you can bring it back out and you're all set to go. It tells you your final score and things of that nature, which is kind of cool. Now on the back of it, it does have a map of the entire area. So again, not spoiling it, is on the back of the thing. Then we have our main play board right here. This is going to be out on the game board area right next to the book, which is going to help you go through all the different steps in the game. We're going to get to that shortly. Here's one of our player boards. I'm going to take a couple of these out. And also on here, you're going to see different tokens. These are some of the common tokens, but these are some of the quest tokens down here. And again, we've got more quest tokens here. These are, I believe, all quest tokens, from what I understand. And then we have even more quest tokens up here. This is also an important board. This is the board that's going to show you where your plane is. And as you take your plane, you could fly it to different places. Of course, you have to be in the space of the plane. The plane can't be destroyed, and it has to have fuel. And you're going to move it, and once you get there, you have to subtract the fuel from it in order to be able to move it to the next space. Let's see. We're going to put I'm going to put all this aside because we're going to probably talk about a lot of this. But I'm just going to set it all aside for now, and we'll go through it shortly. Here's the plane. And it's kind of cool that everything's kind of on its own thing. This is the plane right here. Again, like I said, you're going to put these little tabs on it so that it can go up and down on the plane so you can keep track of the health and the fuel that this plane has. Now, if it's out of fuel, you're going to gain a quest card. And then as you fate distance, you can take damage when you're flying based on, but you have to do fate cards and stuff in order to be able to not take the damage. You're going to use this when you go into combat. This is going to have your active combat deck, in your combat discard deck. If you're ever out of cards, you'll just reshuffle and then begin to use them again. Then we have some unused combat cards. I think you only bring a certain amount to the fight, and you have to decide what those are when you go to that fight. These are going to be the endurance tokens, but again, I can use these if I wish to. We have a couple of standees if we wish to use them as well. These are just going to symbolize 5 of those earlier tokens that you saw that you can place down on the enemies. This is I believe, a time token of some kind, and these are going to be all the different status effects you can gain. You have weakened, you have poison, venom, madness, low morale, frightened. There's a whole bunch of these. And they are dual-sided, but there's nothing on the back. I do like the fact that it states what it is and what it does while you have that status effect. I love it when games do that with their tokens. I don't know why not all the people do that. I think they all should. We do have our character portraits. If you don't want to use the character miniatures, you can use that. This is the time token that is going to be used on the game track sheet here. That'll start up here and kind of go down, and then at this point you can pass, but you have to do all these, you have to do different actions during the game until you get to a certain point, which is you may pass now. Once you pass, it goes on to the next player. These are some of the actions you can do. You can use camp. You can travel, and you're going to lose 3 health if you're around one of those obstacles that you saw on that game board, but for every place you move, it does cost 1 time. So say you wanted to move 3 spaces, and you start up here, go 1, 2, 3, that's 3 times. You only have 1 left before you may pass. You do, of course, could keep going if you wish to. You can explore, that's going to take 2. It takes 2 to lose 1 fuel to fly. And it's going to be equal to the distance. You're going to draw your fate cards again. Then we have, it looks like a repair action on the plane if something happens to our poor plane here. We do have that ability discard area, so as you're drawing those cards to not only do actions but gain abilities, you're going to place them here. The event cards are going to be up here, and the adventure deck is also going to go on this as well. Looking at a couple of our adventurers here, this is the hero that's going to be passed back and forth. This is Claire. I think she's kind of the leader of the expedition, or the leader of the whole group kind of thing. Each character has their own set of health, which you'll put one of the health trackers on, and then you'll track that as it goes down. They all have a certain amount of skills that they can use over here, and so if you ever had to take an action that had to do with repairing the plane and you wanted to use her to help, you would get 2 towards that attempt to add a success. Then they also, on top of that, can use stamina to do certain things. And when you go to do a test, you can choose who you want to have help with the test. Once you decide that, though, anybody can use their abilities to help with that test to go forward. So say he did not help with the test and she was going to repair this thing, and she missed it by, like, let's say 2 on the flip. She only got a 1 on the event cards here, or the skill cards. That wasn't 1. But you got a 1. I could use this guy's ability, even though he wasn't part of the original test, to once per turn, I can discard this to potentially redraw that, if that's what that symbol means. I hope that makes sense. So the characters are all completely unique, as you can tell. Some are better than others at certain things, and that's just how this guy, I wouldn't send to repair anything to save its life, where this person's going to be super good at repairing things. So it's kind of cool how all these different characters are going to be interconnected. And of course, I believe some of the story elements may even pertain to certain characters, because you will play with all the characters. Every character will be on the board, and you will be using all the characters at once. You can't not. That's just the deal. So if you're playing solo, you're going to be carrying all 4 characters and the extra character. If you're playing 2-player, you're going to divvy up 2 and 2, and then this one's going to sit in the middle, and it'll go back and forth to whoever's the starting player. And if there's 3, somebody will be in charge of 2 characters, while then everybody else will be in charge of 1. And of course, 4 players, everybody's got 1 character, which is pretty good. I have not played this 4-player, but I know Sleeping Gods, playing with Colin and then trying again with a lot of other players, I've noticed that Sleeping Gods works really well with solo or 2 players, but once it gets past that, it's a little tough to keep the game going and keeping everybody engaged in the game. I hope that makes sense. Returning to the cards, we do have event cards. This is a way that you can adjust the difficulty. Taking out a certain amount of level 1 cards will make the game tougher, and that's when you decide your difficulty. It'll be based on how many of these level 1 cards you remove from here. But I'm just going to show you a couple of them. For example, here we have a level 1 card. A pack of spirits watches from the distance, filling you with unease. So you're going to gain a frightened token, but you also gain a resource as well. Some of these are going to be remaining in play. For example, if you took the liquor flight, you're able to, Alzarian travelers request passage to Stormlock City. So this is going to remain in play until you can deal with this. It may be due to a place you have to go. It could be a skill check or something you have to do. And then once that's done, you're going to be able to either gain the reward or be able to remove whatever conditions are affecting you. So you have to move the plane to Stormlock City, and I cannot start in Stormlock City in order to gain this. So it does, but then once we get there, we're going to gain these resources and draw an ability card. So some of these are going to be good, some are bad, some are going to remain in play. It all depends. You never know what you're going to get out of the event deck. Next, there are 142 numbered adventure cards, and some that aren't, which you're going to start with. These are cards you're going to gain through the different quests or through the storybook that it might tell you to be able to gain. These can be anything from people to items to totems to things of that nature. And then, of course, some of them are for combat, and they actually do list them on here because, like I said, moving into combat, you're only going to bring a certain amount of cards from what I understand, and then you'll be able to know which ones in your deck are actual combat cards. Now, it does start with a pack of cards that are, you start off at the beginning of the game, and a lot of these are combat cards. You're going to gain like a double punch. You could gain a combat card here, flank. You could flank him. You could get a bullet precision strike. You could even gain some weapons as well, some items that are going to cause damage. For example, here's our pistol, which does 4 damage. You're going to gain characters, and you're going to gain some starting items that you're going to bring out on your adventure. So this is going to be your starting set of adventure cards. You're going to gain more as you progress through the game. The last set of cards are quest cards. It's just one of the 3 decks. I believe there's over 135. That keeps going back there. Full of quests that you're going to be able to do. It'll tell you when to take quests, and you're going to try to fulfill those quests. Of course, you never know where and when you're going to get certain quests. From the way that the tutorial works, you're going to start with certain quests. One of them is this one right here, so I don't have any problem showing you this one because this is one you're going to gain in that tutorial quest. It is going to be the Shoreman's Star. So a dormant totem that you can rejuvenate at any time by discarding these particular cards or resources. And if you do, place this card in the completed quest and gain adventure card 3. So this is going to be a way to gain a totem right off the bat, but you have to have these items in your area. You have to own these items in order to get the totem. So this is one of, like I said, the starting quests. It doesn't tell me a place to go or what to do, but it does tell me I need these resources. So now if I find, as I'm going through the game, somebody talks about a place where you can gain these type of resources, that might be something we might want to try to go do right away, because getting those totems are very powerful and be able to help us in the game. So those are the quest cards, and I believe that's about all that's in this box. I do want to mention that these are for that expansion that you saw. That's what these are. Now, like I said, this is Distant Skies, but there is also another box to show you. This is Primeval Peril. This again is set in the Sleeping Gods world. This is probably going to be a lot quicker to go through because there's not going to be anything I need to explain about kind of how the game is played. This is, from what I understand, this is the print and play that was done during the original Kickstarter, or it was a bridge between when the Kickstarter finished and when they were able to deliver the game. I think, if I remember how this works, and they decided to create it as a whole box for you if you wish to get it. And we included it in our pledge. Again, very similar to other stuff. Now, this one is a lot shorter. This only takes about 2 hours to complete, but it is only for 1 to 2 players. But it's a nice way to just kind of get a Sleeping Gods type game to the table and be able to play it without having to have a lot of things to deal with. So it's very cool for like couples. So I'm like Robin and myself will probably be able to play through this and be a lot of fun. These are going to, now of course it does kind of have everything in this book. It has your maps, it has your enemies, everything. A lot of it, it's really kind of an easier game to get to. There's not so much going on. There is a rule book and storybook, just very similar to the game, but as you can see, a lot smaller. Here is your journal notes. Instead of it being a huge giant like paper with lots of stuff, it's just got kind of your blood flowers, and you can choose the difficulty, how many turns, 3 turns or fail. So it's a smaller type experience, like I said. Now you do have this boat that you're taking down this river, and it does still have the same kind of tokens you're going to have from the other game. It does have different actions you have to do that you're going to be able to, I should say, as you play through the game. You have your characters, and each of these characters apparently have a level 1 and a level 2 side. Now that's new. I'm not sure what that is, if they level up going through the game or if it's just a difficulty thing that you can adjust as you play through the game. They all have their own health and they have their own powers and what they're good at, just like in the other one I just showed you. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. So you are going to play with all 5. If it's the same as the other one, you're going to play with all 5 characters. They do have some tokens that are going to have to do with the game. We have the same type of combat tokens that we had from the original game. And then here's all the different cards that you're going to have. These could be maybe the blood flowers, or maybe these are the endurance tokens that you can have. We'll have to take a look as we play through all the different parts of this game. This game does have 2 different decks of cards. It has the quest cards and item decks, I think, are all in here. Then it does start with a full set of combat cards that you're going to use. This is like, and each of these is starting gear. Again, I could show this, not a big deal. But a lot of this, if you notice, does have dice rolling involved. There are some dice up here. There isn't, from what I understand, no fate deck for this particular expansion, and that's mainly because that's what I decided to do here. There is an event deck. Now, the way you adjust your difficulty in this one is you're going to be beefing up the enemies or lowering the enemies' abilities or hit points that they have, not swapping out event cards. You're going to be using all the event cards in this particular scenario. And that's really about all there is for this particular expansion. So that's it. And that was Primeval Peril. So if you're interested in that, that's something you could pick up if you just picked up Distant Skies. You also could grab this. Like I said, I kind of think this is cool because it's only about 2 hours as a play. Now, that doesn't mean you can't play it again if you want to try again. Now, from what I understand, I think there's only one quest in this, and that is to try to find a missing person. But other things in the game will happen, which you do have to travel around on this river. And the river is not just a static river. You could go all over in this river, experiencing new things going through the game. So there you have it. That is my unboxing of Distant Skies, which is inside of the Sleeping Gods universe. Thank you again so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the unboxing. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell symbol so you know when the playthrough comes out for this. Like I said, I'll try to do the introduction one just so you can see how this game all transpires. But then Colin and I are planning to play this live on Meet Me at the Table, so please check out the live tab where Colin and I do play games usually about every week on Tuesdays that you can join us, or of course you can rewatch them again under the live tab of this channel. On top of that, I try to do some live painting videos every once in a while. Try every Thursday, but it doesn't work out very well. But I get some out there when I can. Are you interested in this game? Have you received your copy yet? Have you had a chance to play this game? Whatever you're interested in telling me, please leave a comment in the description of this video. I would love to hear from everyone. If you're interested in supporting the channel, my Patreon is also located in the description of this video. Those that have joined the Patreon are shown here on the screen. Thank you so much for your patronage. It does mean the world to me. Those that do join the Patreon do get some special perks. One of them is they do watch all of the playthroughs, usually a day or two early without commercial interruptions. On top of that, they do get a chance in some of the campaign games similar to this one to decide kind of how we go forward. So once we get to saving area points in this game, I might be asking the Patreons which direction we should maybe be going in the future so they can have a say in how games go forward in that are especially these big campaign games. It's awesome to have their input and to be able to make the game part of their own. So there you have it. That was Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies, along with Primeval Peril in unboxing. I hope you, again, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed it. And again, thank you so much for watching. If you're excited to see Primeval Peril or Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies, then I need you to meet me at the table.